souls honoring Elohim's mandate. And now for today's message.
Well, hello. Welcome to SHEM Ministries. That is a souls honoring Elohim's mandate. But tonight is our SHEM 2 night, which is a spiritual, healthy, enlightening mandate ministry. Woohoo! And listen, look, I am Dr. Anna Shaw Devlin, and tonight we are cooking. Doesn't this look like a baker's hat, a chef's hat? We are cooking up a meal for you tonight. You see the heart, I don't know if you can see the EKG, the electrocardiogram. That says there's an electrical conduction that is going to shock the heart as we prepare a meal for you. Yes. And I just didn't even think about it until I put the hat on, right? My medical hat. And I said, that looks like a chef's hat. So please go wash your hands and get prepared to eat and feast off of the final course of our meal. We are talking about eczema. Why are you itching? Understand that eczema is a term for multiple different types of skin disorders. Actually, there's 7. And if you would like to just go back and rehearse and review part 1 and part 2, tonight we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about the inflammatory process. It's a cascade. It's an autoimmune cascade in eczema. Not that it's an autoimmune disorder, but in a sense, but kind of is, right? Because it's an inflammatory process. And then we're going to talk about the difference between eczema and psoriasis in particular. And I do want you to know that because they can appear similar, you really need to seek treatment and get a definitive diagnosis, because the core of psoriasis, which is strictly autoimmune, and the treatment is different. And so you really need to know the difference between the two. And that's the reason we're going to focus on that. But tonight, we would like to start with a word of prayer. Believing God that this message will be life-changing for somebody, even if it's only for one person. Glory be to God. Oh, it is. The Bible says that the angels rejoice over one soul, just one soul being saved. And my thinking to you, let's see, this says your Wi-Fi dropping video data, switch now. All right, well, let's switch and see what happens. I pray that fixes the situation. I'm thankful for the little warnings that they give us. But I pray that if only one person is blessed to be able to change their life and teach and educate others for life-changing treatment for them, I give God all honor, the glory, the thanks, and the praise, because that is why we do what we do. So, Father, we thank you for this ministry. Thank you for the viewers that are live and those yet to view this third part series. Excuse me, why are you itching? Okay? Get beyond the other stuff and be able to say definitively, I think I have atopic dermatitis or I have eczema, and understand that eczema is multiple, 7 different types of skin disorders. And like I said, I'm not going to go back through them, but I want to start with this. And let me get my screen right. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, if you saw how many things I have here, you'd be like, oh, wow. It would be nice if I had a little remote control. But eczema historically was viewed primarily as an allergic inflammatory disorder. But mounting evidence indicates that atopic dermatitis, which is the most common eczema, involves an autoimmune-like mimicking autoimmune. That's why you have got to be able to tell the difference between eczema and psoriasis by going to an expert and letting them help, okay? Because there's so many over-the-counter treatment for eczema. And if you say, oh, I got eczema, and you don't know, you've never had anyone differentiate and tell you that, yes, this is definitely eczema, it could be a warfare going on in your body that does not manifest itself on the outside until it is severe. So what I'm saying to you is delaying treatment can cause you all of a sudden to go from a mild to severe. It only depends on the autoimmune cascade, the inflammatory process, what's taking place, the warfare going on in your immune system regarding this, and the stressors and all of this stuff. It's kind of like the person who shingles. That's a good one. It's kind of like the person who had chicken pox when they were young, okay? And they say by the 5th decade, right, or 6th decade, that is the only, you run out of the immunity that your body created after having the chicken pox. And the chicken pox was suppressed in your body, the virus itself, because remember, there's no cure for a virus. And then all of a sudden, you get this really bad case of shingles. You're about 60, 65 years old. And you get, a flare that is like, oh, terrible. Well, they found stress and anything can precipitate it. But the immunity that you develop wears off around that time. And that's why they decided that it was best for a person to get the Shingrix, the vaccine for shingles. And know that shingles and chickenpox are the same virus. Yes. So the same way that analogy or that occurs, I want you to use that as an analogy why it would be pertinent for you to know, do you have psoriasis or do you have eczema? Because there's multiple types of eczema, but there's And then there's different types of psoriasis too, right? It's not an easy thing. So stop playing doctor yourself, okay? And seek treatment. Know or review this information. And as I said, the last 2 episodes, this is our Eczema Awareness Month. I did not find out until tonight when I was doing a little bit more research that September is Psoriasis Awareness Month. I didn't know that, but hey, now we know. So in a timely manner, psoriasis in September, eczema in October, okay? All right, so where we're going to start, let me see. I did show you all, we talked about the skin. If I'm not mistaken, the last thing we discussed was the different layers of skin, right? And I showed you that, we have our epidermis, our dermis, and our subcutaneous tissue and into the muscle itself. And we were talking about the epidermis, right? Because the epidermis is actually where our protection is for our skin, our barrier, right? First, you got to have a good, strong epidermis. And in order to, and let me get rid of this here for now. Wait a minute. Let me go back and let's remove this. Okay. So if this is the outer layer of your skin, and this is where your protection is, and this is where the barrier that keeps bacteria and you got to break through the skin barrier in order for you to get an overwhelming infection and then irritation. And if that were to occur, whatever is on your skin can seep down on the inside, and then that inflammation progresses and the skin disorder worsens. So that is the reason why I'm mentioning how important it is to have a good, healthy outer layer of skin. And that is your epidermis. And we talked on last week. Let me see if I can find the blah, blah, blah. I really didn't want to have to backtrack, but anyway, the different layers of the epidermis. I think, anyway, I'm not going to go back. But do know that the epidermis has multiple layers to it. Yes, it does. And the multiple layers are what they determine to be the thing that kept the epidermis so healthy and protective of not having eczema was filaggrin. Okay, so tonight I want to start by talking about filaggrin. Okay, so let me pull up my information on filaggrin. Let me see where I put it at. Oh my God. Here it is. Let me see. Please forgive me. I got all these little filaggrin, the skin structure. Okay, I think this is one of them. Yep. Let's start with that. Okay, because filaggrin is a protein. It is a structural protein that is found in the outermost layer of your skin, the stratum corneum, and it plays a crucial role in maintaining your skin barrier function and preventing moisture loss. Well, when moisture is lost, the skin gets dry, cracked, and when something is dry and cracked, doesn't it not break and tear and there goes a portal of entry to the dermal layer, right? And when I showed you the picture about the layers of the skin, oh my God, that's where all the blood flow and oh yeah. So we definitely don't want anything to break through the outer layer. But the filaggrin is what keeps it a protective barrier. It is, and let me see. I do have another. Yeah, I got a picture of it that will help explain it. But let me just read you a little bit of history about it. So it says that Dr. George Moncrieff introduces a skin protein that is vital for skin health, but is impaired in more than half of the people with eczema. This is how it was determined that filaggrin was crucial. You did not want to have filaggrin deficiency. That this was a major factor in people who lost their filaggrin protein or didn't have much filaggrin protein developed multiple different types of eczema. Okay? Now, it says if you have atopic eczema, which is atopic dermatitis, okay? We called it AD, and I said that was not Anna Devlin, all right? You really need to know about filaggrin. This large protein, it was first discovered by Beverly A. Dale back in, 1977? Really? Yes. Well, why in the world are we just hearing about it now? Why are we learning more about it now? You just got to know. No one's going to promote information until there's been enough research and information to support what's being said. So it was not until 2006 that its critical role in developing the skin barrier was described by a remarkable geneticist from Dundee called Professor Irwin McLean. Oh boy. But the 1977, back then, oh well. Anyway, the skin structure. The outer layer of our skin is the epidermis. I'm just going to read this information to you so you'll know that it won't just me. I didn't make this stuff up, okay? This is essentially made up of 4 layers. The outer one is called the stratum corneum, and that's where I told you the filaggrin is produced. And that is the skin barrier. In some parts of the body, for example, the eyelid, the stratum corneum, is 1/10 as thick as a piece of paper and is therefore very vulnerable. Yes. And I'm going to show you some pictures because eczema can be on the eyelids. I'm going to show you this, okay? The cells in this layer have no nuclei. So some people in their ignorance describe these as dead cells waiting to fall off. For dead cells, they are astonishingly clever. They are no more dead, though, than the red cells in our bloodstream, which also have no nuclei. Interesting. The layer of cells just below the stratum corneum is called the stratum granulosa, so called as 2 important types of granula develop cytoplasm of these cells. Okay, look, we're not getting into all of that, okay? I just needed you to know that there are layers of where this filaggrin lives that are thinner than others. So you don't have as much, and you may see eczema more or in certain areas of the body, okay? There's a method to my madness, and the madness is filaggrin, deficiency, lack of, right? Is seen in people who have eczema. And we should do everything we can to maintain this skin barrier. And we're going to talk about its role and how to protect it and this, that, and the other. Okay? Now, let's talk about, don't worry about let's talk about what filaggrin does. And then we're going to, let's see, its function. So filaggrin, first function is to aggregate the tonofilaments, hence its name, filament aggregating protein. So its function is to aggregate keratin filaments, forming a dense network that strengthens the skin barrier. Okay? And they actually form a lattice-like structure. Now, anyone know about a lattice fence and how they overlap one another? Okay? I'm going to read this to you because I think this collapsing on itself and the analogy that they use here will help you understand its significance more than anything. So as the filaments are aggregated, they form into a lattice-like structure. When this reaches a critical size, it collapses on itself, rather like an ironing board being put away. Wow. This dramatically changes the shape of the cell from the cuboidal shape in the stratum granulosa to the flattened, stratified shape of the cells in the stratum corneum. Oh my God, Dr. D, what in the world are you talking about? But just hear me out. These flat cells have a huge surface area, which enables, so if it doesn't fold back on itself, it flattens and it's more of a protective barrier when it does this, okay? It enables easy bonding to their neighbors. Like, if I stand up tall, I can only cover this area, but if I lay down flat, I can reach out to my neighbor and we can touch and hold hands. And it's kind of like the chain link fence where they all interacted together and chained together. Remember, here, let me see. A human, let's use this. When the wind is blowing and you're outside, if you stand alone, you're more easy to be blown over. But if you and a bunch of people stand hand in hand and spread your legs apart, then it's easier for you to bear the weight and stand tall and be more protective, right? I hope that makes sense to you. So they bond to their neighbors, and it also offers considerable overlap and is therefore a more effective barrier to water loss or ingression of allergens or pathogens such as bacteria or viruses. Now, this is where this screen here is effective. I had to read all of that, so now that I show you the picture, it makes sense. So look at normal, strong skin. Do you see the allergens and the irritants? Those are things that if they get in your skin, they can cause havoc and rashes and all kind of stuff, right? So in the normal skin, do you see where it says bonding filaggrin protein? It's at the top on the right. So do you see the link there that they bond together and strengthen so you cannot get through? Yeah, I see that. And it's all in the stratum corneum, that top layer of the epidermis. So they all link together, so you cannot break through and get into down into the dermal layer and cause havoc in my body. That epidermis is like a force field, okay? Also, you have your keratinocyte cells. Remember, keratin, they're a bodybuilding protein as well. We heard about that keratin, and they advertise all of these creams and ointments that have keratin and collagen and all of this stuff, which is good. Yes, yes. But you got to understand the significance and the importance of utilizing these things, right? Also, look at the natural moisturizing factor, right? Because the water is not able to escape, right? The lipid cells, oil molecule, right? That forms a barrier in itself. So look at all the beautiful things, how they're strong and strengthened together in normal skin barrier. But what happens in eczema? Weakened skin barrier. The filaggrin. Wow. You have fewer lipid cells and less moisturizing factor. Because, oil and water together is moisturizing, right? The water is escaped. And you don't have many lipid cells, and you're at a filaggrin loss. And what happens? The water is gone and the barrier is broken. And then the allergens and the irritants, they penetrate through. And then they wreak havoc on the body. Okay? So, filaggrin. Very, very, very important. And let me just, like I said, it helps regulate water loss. There was 3 things. And I should have typed them out, but I didn't. As I said, they aggregate keratin filaments that strengthens our skin barrier. Filaggrin helps regulate water loss by attracting and binding water molecules. And number 3, contributes to the production of our natural moisturizing factors, which keep the skin hydrated. All right. Genetics, though. Filaggrin in our DNA. You mean to tell me that some people might have a little bit more filaggrin than others? Yep. Filaggrin is encoded by the FLG gene located on chromosome, I can't read my writing, chromosome 1621 or 1621. I'm sorry. Mutations in the FLG gene. Just know that there is a specific gene for chromosome that produces filaggrin. Know that. And mutations, right, in this FLG gene can lead to a deficiency in filaggrin production, resulting in skin conditions such as atopic dermatitis. So it is found out, and ichthyosis vulgaris and allergic rhinitis. So if they were to do a filaggrin gene test on a person, they would test and see that there was a deficiency if it came down to that. And the thing that was surprising to me when I read this was how many people have allergic rhinitis and have some type of eczema. Wow. I didn't say actually most of it's atopic dermatitis, but remember, we talked about contact dermatitis as well. There are people who easily come in contact with stuff and they just break out in a rash, right? Yes. How many people have seborrheic dermatitis and allergic rhinitis? Oh my gosh. But the role in Atopic dermatitis is, like they say, a key genetic risk factor. Okay. Without sufficient filaggrin, the skin barrier becomes weak. All right. And makes it very susceptible to inflammation, dryness, and itching. Now, other facts: filaggrin, like I said, is produced in the upper layer of the epidermis, but also know that it is released during skin cell maturation. Remember, I told you skin cells die and more are formed. And sometimes, I'm learning this myself, that sometimes we do things that we shouldn't do, that we think are good for us, because everybody's talking about exfoliating and doing this and doing that. Well, I personally stopped exfoliating like I used to. Yep, sure did. I did. Remember, I told you, total transparency. I'm not going to tell you something that I myself have not researched, studied, and tried on myself. Okay. And I noticed that the different type of soap or cleanser that I use with less exfoliation, I have less, my skin is not as dry as it used to be. Or I may not have to apply as much moisture. And the other thing that I started doing was the 3-minute rule. Within 3 minutes of taking a shower or a bath, I do not let myself go without moisturizing my skin after 3 minutes. I make sure I'm moisturized within 3 minutes. And I can tell a difference. I'm not going to tell you and not do and try myself to prove it. Proof is in the pudding. Okay. Now, also know that filaggrin is involved in the regulation of immune responses in the skin. So if it's involved in the immune response and it's not present, and we cause ourselves to go into that immune cascade, autoimmune cascade in eczema. Oh, wow. Hadn't thought about it like that. But it is possible. Okay. And this is something that we need to do. We talked on last week about the different cycles. I think I did. Because we talked about, I don't know if we did the skin scratch cycle. Wait a minute. I'm sorry if I didn't. Let me go back real quick and check something out. Oh, no. Nope. This is a perfect place to start with that. So, yep, this is it. Impaired skin barrier. Okay. So, a defective skin barrier is often the initiating event in the autoimmune cascade. So, once your skin barrier decreased filaggrin, right? And your skin says, wait a minute, something ain't right. I got to get ready to fight back. Somebody broke through, or I don't feel as protected. What if it's almost like a window being cracked in the winter, and air is coming in, cold air is coming in. You're like, where's that cold air coming from? The window is open. So what if filaggrin deficiency is like a window opening up, and your body, your immune system senses cold air or senses that the filaggrin is not present, and says, oh, it's time to start fighting, time to get prepared. So this defective skin barrier is the initiation of events in the autoimmune cascade. And a cascade is one thing leads to the other, the next thing leads to the other, and so on and so on. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly because I do not intend for you to remember all the steps. I just want you to see what all takes place, okay? So the genetic mutation in the filaggrin FLG gene contributes to this, and its reduced protein in the epidermis causes disorganized keratin filaments and altered lipid production. Everything gets, that cold air blowing in just blows everything all out of proportion. Okay. And it compromises the skin integrity. So your house is not warm anymore. That cold air, the temperatures drop, decreased. Okay. And it just compromises everything and increased transepidermal water loss. So everything escaping, like humidity, all of that, the cold air causes, whatever. You got the picture, all right? Easier penetration of allergens, irritants, and bacteria. Ooh, remember I told you that Staph aureus lives on your skin? So if you open the window and all of this cold air, and the allergens and the irritants come in with the cold air, and you already have Staph aureus on your skin, the next thing you know, the inflammatory cytokine release. Now, cytokines it's kind of like, we're going to fight. They're the mechanism, like an enzyme that's going to stand up for you and start to fight the battle, right? Cytokines. The entry of foreign substances through the compromised skin barrier triggers an innate immune response. That means you can't do nothing about it. Your body is there. You can't turn it on, you can't turn it off. Causing keratinocytes, right? And other skin cells to release inflammatory cytokines called alarmins, like sound the alarm, right? There is an invasion taking place. Get the army ready. Or, back in the day, I think, what did they do? Sound the alarm. That's what they did. The church bell, ding, 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 ding. When there was a fire, they didn't have no telephone to call nobody. You just all of a sudden heard ding, 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 ding. And everybody started running. They knew what that meant. Okay? All right. And so therefore, you got all these cytokine alarms going off. Then T helper cell activation. These alarmins activate dendritic cells, which act as antigen-presenting cells. Listen, the war has taken place. Remember what I told you about the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, and the Marines? All of the armed forces have decided to just, hey, let's have at it. We all gonna fight. We're gonna fight from the sea, fight from the air, fight on the ground. Isn't that not what the Army, Air Force, Marines, and right? The Navy, the sea, all of the everything to protect our country, right? So all of them are released. And this right here just tells you the different cells, but we're not getting into that. All right. And those are the T helpers. Then you get your immune cell recruitment and your IgE production. Now, the activated T cells release more cytokines that perpetuate the inflammatory cycle. You got your eosinophils and your mast cell activation, your IgEs. These are, I don't know if you remember your doctor doing a CBC. Remember I told you the complete blood count? And they'll do what's called a white blood cell differential. So you get your blood test done and they say your white blood cells are elevated. Those are your leukocytes, your white blood cells are elevated, okay? They will take those white blood cells and smear them under a microscope and determine what percentage are the eosinophils, the monocytes, the lymphocytes, all of that. They break them down and try to figure out which is which. Like I said, which one is the Army, which one is the Navy, which one is the Air Force, which one is the Marines. Well, in inflammation and irritation like allergens, your eosinophils, your IgEs, these are the things, the mast cells, these are things that are really gonna trigger and indicate inflammation in the body, all right? Just remember that, E, inflammation, E, eosinophils, IgE, remember that. And that's enough of that. I'm not gonna go any deeper into that, okay? So you got your immune cell recruitment and your IgE production. Then, so you got all of these toxins and all of this stuff on your body. Now, all these toxins, what happens after that? You remember when we talked about the nasty fingernails and all of that? Well, you get this itch. Oh, oh my gosh, my skin is itching. I got a scratch. Oh, it's just irritating and it's itching. And you start scratching. And then what happens? The itch-scratch cycle begins. This immune activity causes significant inflammation, leading to redness and itching. Scratching physically damages the weakened skin barrier, allowing even more irritants and bacteria to enter. This triggers the release of more alarmins and cytokines, which amplify the entire immune cascade. Oh my gosh. So the more you scratch, the worse it gets. I'm not going to say I don't never scratch, but if I get to the point where a little scratch now this is me. If I get to the point where I scratch just a little bit and the scratch don't go away, I go find me some hydrocortisone cream, me personally, okay? I do. And if the hydrocortisone doesn't fix it, well, first of all, let me say this. Wait. Okay. Before I apply the hydrocortisone, I clean my skin. I said, well, maybe, some dirt and bacteria, just whatever. Maybe I came in contact with something and I just need to wash it off. So you cleanse your skin, right? And you pat it dry and you lubricate it. You put some good moisturizing lotion on. If that doesn't do it, that is when I decide, well, let me just put some hydrocortisone cream. Because especially if the area is somewhere where you perspire a lot and sweat a lot and, you've been outside working and dirt and whatever, cleanse your skin first, right? And then if that doesn't do it, you lubricate it, moisturize it. That doesn't do it, I put me some cortisone cream on it. If the cortisone don't work, depending on how bad the itch is, I'm going to seek some medical advice. Okay? Also remember, heat. You don't need to wash with really hot water in that sense because heat makes it itch worse. Okay? So, but if you're not careful, you will create a vicious cycle of inflammation and scratching. And then you'll say, oh, it's my rash is getting worse. It's now spreading all over. Well, guess what? Did you have a contributing factor in spreading it? Yeah, you may have. Okay. All right. So now, excuse me for the cough. Now I want to talk about, let me see, the difference between eczema and psoriasis. Yep. This is where I want to go next. Let me see. Wait a minute. Inflammatory process involves the following steps. Oh, okay. I did. Let me see. I don't know if I had that. No, I don't think I put that up here. But I did see something that I did not address, but it's not anything critical that we missed. Okay. All right. I just wanted to look over. I think I covered it. In damaged cells, site of injury, and pathogens. Okay. Just know that your body, in the process of inflammation and tissue dies and has to be repaired. That was the only thing I didn't mention. That macrophages and like the trash can of the red blood of the blood cells. I mean, our body is awesome. It's awesome in how it repairs itself. Okay, that was all I wanted to say. Now I would like to talk about. Let me see if that. Nope. Sorry. I want to talk about eczema and psoriasis. Okay, and here we go. Wait. I'm sorry. Nope. Please forgive me. I did not, when I upload these pictures, sometimes they do not, I don't get them uploaded in order. So, let me go back. Nope. Sorry. I'm trying to get the one. No, okay, eczema. All right, let me just start with that. Let's start with that one. And then I'm going to just read to you the subtle differences between the two. And please forgive me. I wish there was a way I could number my slides, and maybe I'll figure that out one day and make it a little bit easier. Okay. Do know, number one, that eczema and psoriasis both are chronic skin conditions. They cause inflammation, redness, and scaling. However, the causes are different. What causes them is the only difference. They may look the same, but what causes them is the problem that may be difficult to determine. Eczema primarily is caused by an overactive immune system. Position, remember what we said. It can develop at any age, but often, I'm sorry. It has a genetic predisposition, but remember I was telling you the eczema can develop as early as 2 months of age, okay? Psoriasis, on the other hand, is the one that is an autoimmune disorder where the skin cells grow too quickly and accumulate on the skin, and they can even form plaques. This is what can develop at any age, but often between age 15 to 35, typically, okay, is when that develops. And let me tell you, there's 3 subtle differences, and I left this picture up here of the eczema so you can see just pictures of the things what we talked about already, okay? Especially the one with the eyelid. But the 3 subtle differences between eczema versus psoriasis, they can look very similar. They both present with red patches and plaques that are scaly and can be itchy and affect similar areas of the body. Eczema typically tends to be itchier, less well defined, like they may be like all over the place and not in a design, right? Because I'm going to show you the pictures of psoriasis so you can tell the difference. They're not less well defined, borders little, but more crusty. Don't have many borders. Okay. Psoriasis, psoriasis affects about 7.55 million Americans. And like eczema, there are several types. All right. Now, before I get into that, let me just go through this picture I've got up here with you. Okay. We already talked about these. I left this information up here for you to read, but we've already talked about it. The main thing that I wanted to show you were the pictures. So you got the eyelid eczema, okay? Especially seborrheic, right? The eyebrows and all of that. It can cause discoloration, itching, and swelling. You can actually see some people that their eyelids are always red and inflamed. You can get the eczema on the neck. It usually appears as red, itchy, and inflamed skin. And this can sometimes be contact, like if a person has a woolen scarves. Now, I have a hard time with labels in the back of my shirt because sometimes it'll cause a rash on the back of my neck and I have to take it out. Depends on what the label is made of, okay? Overly tight collars or perspiration. Some people have a really short neck and they perspire a lot. And that perspiration is that skin barrier. Think about that skin barrier, okay? Then eczema inside the elbows. A lot of times that's the atopic one. Remember we talked about the knees and the creases with atopic. Develops as an itchy, dry, inflamed rash, form of flexures, right? It is a form of flexural eczema that develops in the creases of moving joints. Hand eczema. This is the one, dyshydrotic eczema, the one that we talked about on last week. And I was telling you about the hands and the face. And we were talking the feet. The feet. So the main symptoms of hand eczema: dry, itchy, red, skin affecting the whole hand, including the fingers. All right, so that's that. Now, all right, so let's talk about psoriasis. And as I give you some statistics, here are some pictures for you to ponder over and look at. So as I mentioned, it affects 7.55 million Americans, right? And according to the American Academy of Dermatology Association, the most common is called plaque psoriasis, but it too itself has several types. The symptoms include areas of thick raised skin, and that's where we get the plaques. A dry layer covering the plaque that is silvery to white called scale. And the itchiness. Plaques can be large or small, may appear anywhere on the body, but are typically on the scalp, knees, elbows, and lower back. So the difference, though, is, I believe, is how thick and scaly, okay? And they do test to determine. That's why I said you need to go see a dermatologist. It can also affect, oh, and also the lower back, but it can also affect other parts of the body too, including the joints, causing the condition known as psoriatic arthritis. So there are people who develop arthritis in the areas where they have the psoriasis. Remember now, this is a true autoimmune, bloodstream, inflammatory thing from our immune system, not a inflammatory, our body in inflammation on the skin. I hope this is making sense. I really do. They're similar, but one is you can't get rid of the inflammation and it go away. Eczema, you can get rid of the inflammation and significantly improve it, but if you do not treat the underlying autoimmune disorder, as with psoriasis, decreasing inflammation on the outer skin is not necessarily going to rectify it. It may improve as far as severity, but it's not going to just go away. Okay. So, 6 to 42% of people with psoriasis develop psoriatic arthritis. Symptoms of psoriatic arthritis include swollen, tender joints, usually in the fingers or the toes, heel pain, swelling in the back of your legs, and stiffness. Okay, so there is a lot to determine. And as you see the pictures here, I've got these are different types of psoriasis, okay? So you've got, I just want you to see them. Psoriatic arthritis over the joints. A inverse psoriasis appears as a bright red, shiny lesion in skin folds, such as underarms and groin. Wow. I mean, I'm telling you, nail psoriasis affects the fingernails and toenails, leading to pitting, abnormal nail growth, and discoloration. Pustular psoriasis features white pustules. And see, the thing about it too, I'm telling you now, you can have pustules. It just depends on associated signs and symptoms. Because if you have a pustular rash that follows a dermatome and precipitated with a fever and has nerve pain, and that could just be shingles, not necessarily a pustular psoriasis. I'm telling you guys, skin derm is not easy. I never, ever, ever. It was always the most difficult topic. And there are people who've been providers for many, many years. And they're like, nope, you got to go see dermatology. I ain't touching it with a 10-foot pole. It is not an easy thing to diagnose. It is so complex. That, I'm presenting this information to you and learning it again, and actually learning some things that I did not know to start with, okay? Look, truth be told, I love the fact that there are dermatologists that you can refer people to. I'm telling you, number one, we do the moisturizing the skin. We try a little steroid. I may give you a Medrol dose pack to take. And if it don't clear up, guess what? You going to dermatology. I'm sorry. You're out of my league. I'm not even going there. And I don't know too many doctors, not nurse practitioners or PAs, but doctors who don't feel the same way. It is not easy, and it can be very time consuming. There's tests where you scrape the skin and you do biopsies, all kind of stuff to diagnose these things. So don't get upset if your doctor says, try this. You try an antihistamine, right? Decrease that inflammatory cascade. And you may even, like I said, topical steroid and then a systemic steroid. And if it doesn't fix it, adios, amigos. It's time for you to go see dermatology. Okay? All right. And then there's the plaque, and then there's the erythrodermic psoriasis. This is very rare and severe, okay? It can occur with the entire body. Look, too much, all right? It's too much to try to pretend that you know, or hard to differentiate between the two. Now, this is what I really want to show you, how intense and the difference between what plaque psoriasis looks like eventually, especially if not well treated. And I also told you that most cases are plaque psoriasis. So take a good look at this picture, okay? Good look. And it's like I said, it's the number one cause or the most common type of psoriasis. But plaque psoriasis, especially psoriasis vulgaris, also known as chronic stationary psoriasis or plaque-like psoriasis, is the most common form and affects 85 to 90% of people with psoriasis. Plaque psoriasis typically appears as a raised area of inflamed skin covered with the silvery white scaly skin. These areas are called plaques and are most commonly found on the elbows, knees, scalp, and back. Now, I have seen people who have these plaques, and I automatically say, do you have plaque psoriasis? And they'll say, yeah, yeah, because they definitely get the diagnosis, okay? The different types of eczema can be tricky too, especially if they're untreated or ignored, okay? So, and here are some facts, okay, we're going to talk about. These are facts, things that will help you to know. Avoid hot showers, as I already mentioned, for both skin conditions. You want to keep your skin as calm as possible. Everybody knows something hot is irritated. Aren't you, when you get hot, don't you get irritated and red and inflamed? People, I could tell you upset. You done turn red. Yep, red, irritated, heat. Avoid taking very hot showers and harsh ingredients on your skin. Know your triggers. Understanding that triggers that lead to eczema and psoriasis flare-ups, right, will help you manage your skin conditions. That's major right there. Knowing what triggers you. There are people who say cold weather, right? When we talked about the eczema. And there are people who leave the north and move south, live in Florida, places where the sun is all the time. And they talk about how they moved to treat their condition and how improved their life was. Remember that the skin barrier matters. Moisturizing and creating a strong skin barrier. That is a must for any of us. We have got to protect our skin. And the skin is now an organ, right? Years ago, they never thought of the skin as an organ. But when you realize how important that skin is to you, especially if you had a burn and you lost your skin. There are people who the certain percentage of their body burned, they're going to likely die, not from the burn, but from the infection, because that protective barrier is gone. It's gone. So be very, very protective. Wear gloves, wear whatever you have to do to protect your skin. Acid, all it, no. Oh, I'm careful. I know what I'm doing. No, my husband has so many pairs of gloves, and I pray, and I believe he does. He doubles up his gloves whenever he's using a chemical or something that he knows, or sometimes he may forget. But I find gloves everywhere, all in his pockets and his coat. So I thank God he wears gloves. Gloves, gloves, gloves. Yes. Protect your skin. But moisturizing and creating a strong skin barrier will help lock in the moisture and create a calmer environment for your skin condition. And listen to the itch. Whoa. If your skin is irritated and itching, it will usually indicate there's an underlying concern. Investigate the itchiness and changes to your skin condition. Listen, listen, listen. Now, finding the right skin care. And this is going to be our the last thing that we cover. And I am going to say to you, I hope and pray, because we can talk about this. We can talk about this on and on and on and on. And I did mention to you the National Eczema Association community in our first lesson on this. And I do advise you to go to that website, and it's the NEA, and get information. And I also had given you the address and everything to this. So please, please go back. I'm not going to get into a treatment, for moderate to severe eczema, the like Dupixent and those drugs, because I don't know enough and don't want to start something that I can't finish with you. But do know that there are disease modifying drugs that are available, but definitely need to be prescribed, risk versus benefit, okay? But, so treatment, right? Find the right skincare. Number one. And that's the reason why I wanted to end on this, because if we talk about the fact that protecting your skin barrier is one of the most important things, and we talked about that filaggrin protein and all of that, right? Whether you genetically have an FLG gene deficiency, whatever, it doesn't have to get to that point if you protect your skin barrier and have the right skincare. It's worth it. People, the cheap soap ain't always, okay. We spend money. We spend more money on food that we eat that we likely will poop out in 48 hours. The food tastes good and it was just Guess what? Most of what gave you that taste that you spent the money on is not anything healthy that is going to feed and nourish your body. And all that's left is poop. So don't spend all your money on eating something that your body is going to eliminate and neglect your skin. Don't neglect the skin. So you may have to spend a little bit more money on, things, the vitamins, the probiotics, right? The microbiomes, the prebiotic, the probiotic, all these things are going to keep your tissues, your organs healthy. The collagen is not cheap, but I get it. I'd rather spend money on that. Have healthy hair and skin and nails, okay? So for the eczema, the use of emollients to keep the skin hydrated. Topical corticosteroids to reduce inflammation. Avoiding known triggers such as allergens and irritants, and implementing gentle skincare routines. Gentle skincare routines. Wow. Didn't I tell you I just made a change? Okay. And yes, I am currently undergoing a regimen for my hair that is also a blessing to my skin. Because the skin, where does the hair come from? Huh? Okay. For the psoriasis, treatment may include topical treatments with keratolytic properties, the keratin, to reduce the scaling and inflammation. Phototherapy under medical supervision. They have these lights, UV, these phototherapy lights that treat it, but you have to have someone who really knows what they're doing. Systemic medications to control the immune response, right? Systemic is anything that goes into your bloodstream. And regular moisturization to maintain skin hydration. All right. All right. Well, God bless you. Thank you for for staying over. Thank you for your attendance. And I pray that this information has been a blessing to you. Like I said, it's complex. I could have kept going on and on and on and on, but I think I've given you enough information to do your own, know enough to know what's available. And if not presented to you from your healthcare provider, ask questions. Know what to ask. There we are. We're back. I might have my head a little twisted, but we're back. Just do what you need to do. Okay? Do what you need to do for you. One life to live, one body, one skin. All right? God bless you. I pray that you have a restful night's sleep, and we will see you on Sunday. We will see you on Sunday. All right. Blessings.